How's it going, people? You asked for cheap cars with 500 brake horsepower, you asked for cheap cars with 400 brake horsepower, and now you've asked for cheap cars with 300 brake horsepower, and once again I've accepted the challenge. I was originally going to do 5 grand as the max price for this video, but while doing my research I very quickly realised it'd be worth going up to the 7.5k mark, as there is a lot more choice, a lot less miles on the cars, and the video will be slightly less exclusive to German cars. 300 brake horsepower is a very decent amount of power for £7,500, especially considering World Rally Championship cars put out about 380 brake horsepower, and look how quick those are. Of course, there are plenty of rogue options I could put on this list that are slightly less glamorous and still easily put out 300 brake horsepower, but for the sake of this list I focused on 5 cars that I think are generally quite high performing options that might whet the appetite of the average car person. I've put them in order of brake horsepower as well to reduce any bias on my part. You could easily make a comment like put a turbo on a £500 Honda Civic or remap a £800 Saab or a Volvo and you'll have 300 brake horsepower, and you would likely be correct, but this video is focusing specifically on cars that left the factory with at least 300 brake horsepower, not cars that can be modded to that level. Remember that I make these videos from the UK market perspective, so prices in other countries may differ. Remember also that whenever buying a second-hand, high-performance car, maintenance, repairs, insurance and tax are important factors to consider, as they all have the potential to increase that initial cost over time. Remember to like and subscribe for more weekly car content, comment down below to let me know your thoughts, but without further ado, let's get into the video. Starting us off at number 5 with a Japanese import into the UK, and the oldest car on this list, the Nissan 300ZX Z32 twin turbo, which was released in 1989 as the 4th generation of the Nissan Z cars, and comes with some serious power and tech for its age. It puts out 300 brake horsepower from its 3-litre twin turbocharged V6 engine, taking it from 0 to 60 in around 5.5 seconds. In terms of the advanced technology, the car comes with active rear wheel steering, which is insane considering its age, as well as variable valve timing and a bunch of other luxuries that my Polo, which is more than 10 years newer, doesn't even have, like climate control. The car has received a lot of love from car journalists, with GQ magazine naming it as one of the most stylish cars of the past 50 years, and Automobile listing it as one of the 25 most beautiful cars in history. It also won many comparison tests against rivals like the Mitsubishi 3000 GT, Mazda RX-7, Toyota Supra, and even beats like the Corvette, Viper and Porsche 968. The cheapest twin-turbo 300ZX I could find is going for £5,800 right now, but for the 7,500 mark you're looking at a 1995 model with between 20 to 40,000 miles on the clock. Very decent mileage, and let's not forget that you can likely get this car on classic insurance to further decrease your overall expenditure. In terms of maintenance however, the 300ZX could potentially cause some significant issues to your wallet. With age often comes issues, and more importantly, rust. Be aware of imports that are potentially hiding rust around the sills, which tend to deteriorate from the inside out. In addition to this, the cooling system is generally considered to be ill-equipped to deal with the high output of the twin turbos. There are a few further issues of note, but one thing I'd say is that the parts are often quite expensive for the 300ZX, with the turbos in particular being a hefty purchase. Overall, this is a super nice classic car to own, and with the expectation that it might cost you a bit to run, you gain the benefit of probably being the only person on the road bombing around in this JDM icon, and predecessor to the 350Z. Coming in at number 4 we have the R230 Mercedes-Benz SL500, which was produced between 2002 and 2011. It has a 5-litre V8 which puts out 306 brake horsepower, taking it from 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds. This German cruiser was the perfect mix of sport and luxury at the time. As with many other Mercedes, on the year before it was launched the R230 was used as a safety car for Formula 1, before the street version was fully unveiled. What I think is more interesting about this car than the actual car itself is the advertisement campaign by Mercedes to launch the car. The brand commissioned film director Michael Mann to create a film trailer style advert, with the storyline based around a man who's become successful gambling and trading and is suspected by US intelligence agencies, so flees in his R230, making a solid getaway. It was played in UK cinemas alongside other film trailers rather than with the normal adverts in order to further create the illusion that this was really going to be a film. Mercedes fans certainly would have known that it was an ad for a car though, as the film was titled Lucky Star, the 3-point star that is Mercedes' logo. You can pick up this faux film car for as little as £5,000 for a high mileage example, but £7,500 will get you a 2002 model with around 50 to 70,000 miles on the clock. In terms of reliability, the SL500 does have the potential to cause some issues, though many owners do attest to its general reliability. As a Mercedes, many parts can be quite expensive to fix if they do go wrong, like that hardtop convertible roof, as well as a small seal to the boot which can wear, causing a wet boot, and a repair bill of almost £2,500 for some poor owners. The vast majority of issues I could find were related to the electrics as opposed to the engine itself though. I personally really like the SL500. It's a car that used to be a lot more common on the roads and is now becoming a little rarer, and a lot of examples are getting to gain a bit of a classic look in my opinion. Probably helps that it has that prestigious SL badge on the front. Onto the top 3 now, and in third place with the standard E46 BMW M3, which is a super popular car, and is probably the most sought after car on this list. It has BMW's S54 engine, which is a 3.2 litre straight 6 putting out 338 brake horsepower, and taking the manual version from 0 to 60 in just 5 seconds. If you don't know about the E46 M3, then you probably haven't looked into cars very much, as the car has been one of the more accessible entry points into M ownership for quite some time. Prices are starting to rise though, so if you are particularly interested in getting one, I would do so as soon as possible. This is likely because the CSL and CS editions have grown so much in value in the last 10 years that the standard model is getting dragged along with them as the affordable alternative. But another key factor influencing the price hike is the fact that these cars are great foundations for race cars. Many get bought up, stripped out, and ragged around a track for years to come. For example, if you haven't seen my video on the cars on screen right now created by Technosport, which you can actually pay to drive, click the icon on the top right hand side of the screen to hear a little bit more about them. One experience at the Nürburgring further displayed just how many E46s end up being either converted into race cars or hitting into very expensive barriers. A high mileage model will set you back around £6,000, but for £7,500 you're still looking at around 90,000 miles. Quite a lot, but it's the price you have to pay to get into M3 ownership, not to mention the maintenance fees, which can amount to quite a bit if a well-known crankshaft big end bearing failure takes place, or the oil supply upgrades haven't been sorted out under warranty. Subframes are also known to crack quite easily, so when buying a high mileage model, get someone who is able to assess the situation, as that could be a hefty expenditure for an unwitting new owner. I feel like there's so much that can be said about the E46 M3, and I would 100% call it a future classic. As more are tracked or crashed, they will only continue to appreciate in value, and as with any M3, we'll likely look back on it favourably in the future. Beating the M3 by just 1 brake horsepower, we have the Audi S4 B7, which puts out 339 brake horsepower from its 4.2 litre V8 engine, taking it from 0 to 60 in 5.6 seconds. Not as quick as the M3, but definitely a lot more practical, particularly if you get your hands on the estate, which you could easily take on a nice road trip, minus the fact that it does 21 miles per gallon on a very good day. Some cool features of the car include the Bose sound system as standard, the electronic stability program, and the fact you can get in manual rather than just Tiptronic. You can also get as an estate, saloon, or a convertible, depending on how practical you fancy being, or how much sun there is in your country. But the reason why I'm not really going in depth on these positives is because many owners have mentioned a massive downside of this car that has scared even myself as a massive Audi fan away from the car, the dreaded timing chain issue. Long story short, Audi replaced the rubbish old timing belt from the previous S4 with a new, hard-wearing timing chain that should last a lot longer than the actual car. Because of this, they put the timing chain in a completely inaccessible spot at the back of the engine, assuming it wouldn't need to be serviced. And though the timing chain itself doesn't need to be serviced, the tensioners and cam adjusters, which are very important for it to work, are prone to wearing out. As the timing chain is so inaccessible, the whole engine needs to be removed from the car in order to replace these parts, meaning your service bill from Audi could cost more than you actually paid for the car in the first place. Though this doesn't happen with every S4, the fact that it can happen would definitely scare me back into buying that M3. That said, you can pick up one of these Quattros for as little as $6,000, with $7,500 getting you a 2005 model with around 75,000 miles on the clock. If you're happy to go even older, you could actually go for the B6 S4, which actually has slightly more power, but less of the luxury features, although it will cost a lot less to service that old timing belt. This car is clearly a great looking car with some incredible specs, and a personal favourite of mine in many ways, but knowing that it's harbouring a potentially crippling timing chain issue does definitely frighten me. For those of you who are brave enough to go for it, and lucky enough not to have a timing chain issue, you really do get a great package, so it does still earn second place on this list. Dominating the list is the X350 Jaguar XJR, which is the 4.2 litre supercharged V8 that puts out 400 brake horsepower, taking it from 0 to 60 in just 5 seconds. That's some ridiculous performance from a quite sizable executive car. It manages to stay pretty light despite its size, as it has fully aluminium monocoque bodywork, similar to the Audi A8. It was actually 40% lighter than the previous XJ, and Jaguar was so proud of this that when they first displayed the car at the 2002 Paris Motor Show, they did so without any paint on it, just in its polished alloy state. At the time, it was one of the most technologically advanced cars available from Jaguar, with a whole new electrical system in the car. However, many senior Jaguar employees didn't actually like the car at the time, saying that these technological advancements weren't done any justice by the traditional appearance of the car, which they said made younger people not as interested in the car despite its tech. This is a fair point by these execs, but I think it has aged quite well, and I can definitely imagine someone buying one to do some sick modifications on. You can pick up an XJR for as little as £6,000, but for £7,500 you're looking at a 2003 model with around 80,000 miles on it. As expected with an old British car, the XJR does come with a few potential issues. Corrosion of bodywork is common in any sharp contour or crease, so be aware of rust. Gearboxes can become a bit snatchy, which can be fixed by changing the transmission fluid, and rear wishbone bushes are renowned for wearing quite quickly. Overall though, owners tend to be quite happy with the Jag's long-term reliability. I feel that this XJR is a great deal for the money. It's just a shame that you can't quite afford the facelift with the £7,500 budget, which looks a lot better in my opinion. That said, it does have the most horsepower and it's under budget, hence it rockets its way to first on this list. So, in this video I've given you my take on the top 5 cheap cars with 300 brake horsepower you can buy for less than £7,500. If you think I've missed any, or would have included other cars on this list, please let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, remember to like and subscribe for more weekly car content. Thank you very much for watching, I'll see you in the next one.
Listen.